Greetings, humans. I'm George. Welcome back to the Windmill Flow Corpses. And today we're joined by Joey Doherty, producer,
Hey,
mastermind in lots of things that we're going to talk about today, otherwise known as Glide Music. Thank you for
yeah,
joining. How are you?
yeah, of course. Happy to be here. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm overwhelmed and overhyped. Everything is great. Um,
Amazing.
First question, why glide music? And have you ever ridden in an actual glider?
No, but I think it would be kind of sick. Um, I think when I want to say I was like maybe 12 when I was playing like online games as a kid. It was kind of the username I picked, and then it just stuck. And I just have a plethora of friends who still call me Glide to this day. And then eventually I was like, well, I want to put music out that isn't, stuff I work on for other people. And I was like, well, this seems like a good name and a fitting thing. So it just kind of happened ever since I was a young kid.
Okay, so it's also a name because you wanted to put music out that isn't work for other people, you said.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I've done like EDM stuff in the past. So I have like a weird musical background, but essentially at a certain point in my life I wanted to produce pop and EDM, and I moved to LA and like took a big jump to do that. But I had ended up wanting to put out music for my friends to listen to, and I didn't really have a good way to do that. So I was like, well, I'm just gonna upload it under the name Glide and put it on every platform so people can access it any way they want, because certain people have different subscriptions and whatnot. So I ended up doing that for a long while, and now all of a sudden I'm way back into the metal scene, kind of doing the same stuff but for rock and metal bands, which is kind of what I ended up doing.
Okay, cool. So I'm already off script, but that's really cool because I didn't know you had your own music. So do you have maybe like a title or two for me to check out
Yeah, yeah,
and for the people
totally.
watching to check out?
Yeah, I'll mention a couple of my favorites. So some are remixes of like friends' projects and bands. I would say there's a song called The Cure, which is a remix for a band called Wake Up Kate, and that's probably like the coolest, but it's also like the hardest like dubstep thing I've made. Um, and then I have a song called What If, which is one of my favorites, and another song called Quicksand. And all three of those are completely different. They're just completely different worlds, completely different realms. And those pretty much sum up a lot of my EDM stuff.
Okay, that's really cool. I will definitely check them out. Let's get into the meat of what you do, which is production. So,
Sure.
for in layman's terms, how would you, for the people watching who may not be specialized, myself included, how would you define production? What is your role when working with artists?
To make their music more exciting.
Okay.
That's always my goal. I always just want to make things bigger and larger and more exciting. I think there can always be more. And I think, especially as artists and musicians, I'm a guitar player myself, so I understand when you're an artist and you're writing music, usually you can only see so far in front of you without like an outside perspective on the music.
Hmm.
And typically, when you're like a guitar player, you're going to write stuff that is geared for the guitar and, guitar oriented music, so to speak. So my job is to come in and to add all the extra things that aren't guitar and make it, sound like it's been worked on for more time than it actually has, and just try to make it more exciting and bigger and crazier and anything I can do to make it a better song.
Okay, given that I've spent a fair amount of time listening to stuff you've worked on recently, bigger and crazier definitely checks out. Uh,
Yeah.
Great. So let's get into probably the biggest title you've ever worked with, which is you've indicated that you've worked on Falling in Reverse, on the
Yeah,
Popular
yeah.
Monster album, on
Yeah.
Ronald and Bad Guy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I worked on the whole album,
Hmm.
but I am Tyler's assistant. Tyler Smith is the guy who produces Falling in Reverse. He also masters all the Call of Duty songs. But so I recently, back in December, just moved down to be his full-time assistant. But I want to say about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, he had called me and asked me to work on Falling in Reverse with him. And he was like, "Hey, I've got a bunch of these songs. They need a bunch of work. They're some songs are 80% done, some songs are 50% done, so on and so forth." So I flew out a few times to be with him and I worked on a bunch of stuff. So to kind of explain what that looks like, it's basically like he's got a song, but there's like a bridge missing and maybe there's guitar parts missing, or maybe there's like a section missing and stuff like that. Typically, I would say a lot of my work is synth and sound design. I do a lot of like transitional stuff, like risers and impacts and explosions and all that stuff. But then there's bigger sections too. So like for Ronald, I made the rap beat for Tech Nine.
Rain, saw it falling from a tower's dead plane. Head banged, Mandalay Bay Hotel out of lead cane. Sex change could get you caught up in death's range. He pled sane, but really imitating Ed Gein.
That he raps over. I made like that section, and I made the buildup that goes into it. Because originally it was like a blank space, which is kind of fun. So there's definitely different levels of stuff that I've done, but I have touched almost every song on that record. There's a few songs that were before me and Tyler started working together. So like Popular Monster, for instance, that song is fairly old. I think it's like 2018 or something like that, which it would have been before I had done stuff for him. But yeah, Bad Guy, I played all the guitar on it. I wrote that bridge with the guitar leads and everything. And then like No Fear, I did some stuff for the rap sections. Just a lot of bells and whistles. And Tyler and I are very big on capturing like feelings and atmospheres and kind of nailing that, and trying to get that to be as perfect as possible. It's a lot of attention to detail, but it was super fun to work on. And ever since I did that, it's been a nonstop train between the two of us. So
Sweet.
it's been great.
That rapping part in Ronald is one of the most epic stuff in Falling in
Yeah.
Reverse, and like really ominous sounding, and probably
Yeah.
probably the first time in my life that I've heard rapping with a background that felt orchestral in that way. So that was a
Yeah.
really cool thing to hear.
Yeah, and that's all Tyler too. Like credit where credit is due. He was his brainchild and his idea. I sprinkled in a few things, like I did the little music box thing. That was kind of my idea and whatnot. But for the most part, he kind of knew what he wanted. It's more about just the time he had to be able to dedicate to making it, and that's kind of where I come in to help fill in a lot of those gaps.
Okay, sweet. So then I want to talk obviously about the band that we're both wearing, which is
Yeah.
which is
Yep.
Sicksense. So how long have you been in contact with Sicksense? How did you get in touch with them? How did you start working together? Let's get into that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, I want to say pretty much around the same time that I was doing Falling or just before. So, gosh, I want to say it's been maybe 2 years now. But essentially at the time, Sixth Sense was looking for someone to mix Cross Me Twice. And basically, Tyler was one of those people that had got hit up to do a test mix, and then he had actually sent it to me and was like, "You guys should go with Joey, try Joey out." And they emailed me, and I did a test mix, and I ended up winning, which I never thought would ever happen, but here I am. So I ended up doing this test mix, and they really loved it, and basically. I started this working relationship with Vicky because I had explained to her, I was like, I'm interested in mixing the record, but I think we could do some production-y stuff and kind of soup up the album a little more and kind of add some things. And ever since we started that relationship, we would get on Discord like 3 times a week, and we worked on every song for about, I don't know, 3 or 4 months straight. Just doing like additional production and like little mixings and like vocal notes and like just getting every little thing perfect as much as we could. There was even some stuff I did like guitar wise and whatnot. But for the most part, it was mainly mixing. I want to say 80% mixing, 20% production-y stuff. And then, yeah, ever since we started Cross Me Twice, I was like, hey, I want to write with you guys. I want to do new stuff. And that was a year ago. And now we're here, and we have the first single that we've written coming out in a few days on the 13th of May.
One
So,
more severe from any pioneer, yo. I think I'm gonna lose my shit. You flash awake, everyone's a fake.
so I'm excited for people to hear this new music and this new era of Sixth Sense that I've created with them. And I feel like we built a pretty crazy world, and I think the songs are really varied, and I think people aren't gonna expect the sound that's going to come out of it. Um, but it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be huge.
That sounds great. So the first single is called Newsflash. That's coming in a couple of days.
Yeah.
And did you say you wrote more this time around than you did for Cross Me?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I started these songs with them. Like I played all the guitar, wrote a bunch of parts and stuff. Um, there's definitely like a mix of everyone as far as different pieces and parts. We kind of have like a pretty big like brainstorming channel where we just throw ideas and riffs and parts, and Vicky will write something on piano and Rob will come up with like a really cool concept and I'll throw in a riff, or Rich will throw in something, or any of the other members will come in and like throw in different ideas and stuff. But I would say a lot of the songs that are coming out were kind of ideas that I had like as soon as they gave me the okay to start writing for them. I had like three ideas right out the gate, and I think those are the three that are coming out as a part of what's coming next. And it's been really, really fun, and it's been cool, and getting to write all these songs and stuff has been really, really awesome.
Spectacular. Now, given that you're a producer mostly, and for the most
Hmm.
part you work with other bands and
Yeah.
behind the scenes, do you ever feel like, I don't know, maybe it's just a little bit annoying that the people you work with get to go up on stages and in music videos and suck up all the glory? Is that something you've ever thought about?
Well, kind of. Back in the day, I was that. I was a kid in a band for like a really long time, and I toured and I did like a few U.S. East Coast legs and stuff. And I've played a bunch of shows and I did it, but I think at a certain point in my life, I kind of realized touring is not really for me. I think it's kind of a big commitment to a lifestyle change, and I'm very much a homebody. I like being at my house and having all my creature comforts, and I don't like being gone for an extended period of time and all that. And that's kind of where, at the same time, learning all of that, the one thing I always loved was recording music and writing songs and playing guitar and being in my computer and being in my DAW to work on music. And eventually I kind of just had an epiphany and was like, I'm gonna produce, and I'm gonna produce for other people, and I'm gonna figure it out, and I'm gonna make it work. And then I sold my car and I moved to LA, and I had like $500 in my pocket. I knew one person. I literally only knew one person. I stayed on his couch for a month, and now I have a whole career. So it's like it's been a crazy, crazy journey.
You're one of those people. Your life is a movie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It just happens.
Okay, so when do we see an autobiography then?
I don't know.
That would be really cool.
Yeah, that would be
Okay,
fun.
so okay, then I'm not gonna ask you about playing live. But from working with Sicksense, I know that then you also got in touch with the Call of Duty team and
Yes.
started working there.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. How did that transition come about?
Yeah. So Kevin had reached out to Vicky because Vicky had done a bunch of covers of like 115 and like Abracadabra and like a bunch of YouTube covers and stuff. And he just loves that stuff. He loves covers. He will go to every single one and like listen to them all and leave comments. And he's very, very involved in that scene, which is really, really cool. And so he ended up reaching out to Vicky and was like, "Hey, do you want to do a song for Black Ops 6?" And she was like, "Yes, absolutely." And then she had brought me up and was like, "Hey, who do you have mixing and producing?" And at the time, Kevin actually already had a team of people that he was like, "These are the people I'm working with, and this is what I got going on." But he was curious, so he was like, "Well, who do you recommend? And who are you, who do you suggest?" And that's how I got brought up. And then he reached out to me. And originally, I was just supposed to work on the song that we were doing with Vicky, which is what Slave turned into.
I'm a slave to the music of my grave, and I'm falling ever faster. And I know I can't be saved. Now I'm dead by a slave.
And originally, I was just supposed to mix it. I wasn't even supposed to like produce or write or do anything. It was just straight mixing, and it was like one song. But I started this relationship with Kevin where he was like sending me songs that weren't out yet. So he sent me like um, I think Can You Hear Me Come In with Megan Rice, and he asked me my thoughts on the mix and the production and stuff, and I was like, I think it's cool and I think it sounds good, but I think we could do more and we could make it crazier, make it more exciting. And he was like, okay, well, I'm gonna destroy something beautiful at you and see what you do with that. And then I did it, and I did a full production pass, and I did a first mix, and I sent it back to him, and his exact wording was, "This is the first time I've ever gotten a mix, and I don't have any notes."
I will destroy something beautiful. I hear a voice that tells me you're wrong. I want to give you the one thing I thought I had inside. I will destroy something beautiful in you.
So from there, it was like, all right, well, I want to do more, and he wants me to be more involved, and um, we kind of ended up in this really happy kind of middle spot where Kevin is a very, very busy person, and he works at Treyarch like probably 14 hours a day, and then he's got, wife and kids and a whole life outside of that. So having the time to write for zombies is really, really hard for him. And having the ability to, you know, make all these songs can be difficult because he just doesn't get breaks. He's just a workhorse, and he's in it to win it all the time. So I told him, I was like, well, if you want, you can start sending me your ideas and start sending me, riffs and stuff that you have, and then I can start building out different pieces of it. And that's kind of where Slave came out. He like wrote the chorus, and then I wrote the main riff, and then I was like, well, what if we do this for the verse? And then what if we try this? And he's like, well, what if we do this for the bridge? And I was like, okay, well, I wrote this breakdown. You know, so we ended up doing this thing that's very complementary to each other, and I think I have a pretty good ear for being able to bring the his style and his kind of style of playing to also a more modern light as well. Because clearly he's got like I want to say an older Thrasher kind of 90 years style, which is really cool, and I want to capture that. I don't want to tarnish that at all. So it's been fun to kind of take those elements and then also sprinkle in a lot of my lifeblood and kind of the styles that I like and the modern stuff to go with it.
That's
And yeah,
that's a
it's
really
just hasn't stopped.
Yeah, that's a really cool parallel you just drew between like the more modern sound that you can get across and the more old school direction that he has in. I feel like on the more chaotic tracks, on the faster ones, like the new one, like No One There and like Dig, that really comes across because you get the sort of punchiness that you get in
Yeah.
metalcore and prog music, but you also get that sort of chaos and really raw, aggressive feeling of old school music. So that's a really cool combo you guys have going together there.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. It's been really fun, and it's just been really exciting to do all this music with him, and I'm excited for what's next. Being able to work on something as big as Call of Duty has just been crazy. I'm just to me, I'm like a kid in a basement making music. I don't think of it as, I work on all these giant projects and have this, major influence on musical choices and stuff. I just want to make cool music. So it's really amazing, and I'm super grateful I get to work on something as big as this and as cool as this. And Kevin has just been such an amazing person and a great writer and a great friend. It's been really, really awesome, and we have such a good working relationship. And I mean, it went from how do we solve a problem to now every time we go to do a song, it's like, all right, how do we top the last thing we just made? How do we make it crazier? What can we do? And that's kind of how No One's There ended up being as ridiculous as it was.
Waking up isn't all that it seems when you don't know you're dreaming. I'm holding a light in the dark. We collide and rip into a part of life.
Topping that one's gonna be, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
You really made it hard on yourselves there.
Yeah,
So,
so did Vicky.
wow. Okay. So You mentioned earlier when we were talking about more generally what production is like explosive effects and stuff like that. I want to point
Sure.
out a couple and ask you about them specifically that I'm really curious about. So
Yeah.
for example, in the Call of Duty songs in Remember Us, there's the part where the line says, "I need a reason why,"
I need a reason why there's someone in my dreams.
and then there's like a kick in, or just the very beginning in Turn to Ashes. Those sort of peaks where there's like an instant sound wave kind of at the beginning, and then it quickly fades out. Those are like the things that are most punchy in Call of Duty music that I really enjoy. And so can you detail a bit, even though it might be a bit more pro? Can you detail a bit on how you make those?
Yeah, yeah, totally. So I think the first thing, it's very conceptual for me, and kind of the first mindset that I have when I work on these songs is that people need to be able to hear it while they're playing the game. Like while there's a bunch of gunfire and explosions and zombie noises and sound effects, like you got to be able to hear the music. So if the mix isn't, punching you in the face, you're not going to hear it over the video game. I mean, I think there's tricks that they do in-house to make the game sounds quieter and the music louder when you play the Easter eggs, but it's still kind of a big point for me. So when we're doing this stuff, basically I'm taking, they're called impacts. And so what I'll do is I'll take this impact and I will make it way too loud, and I will make it so loud that it distorts and it creates this like crazy, ridiculous sound. But to a flip side of that, it kind of creates this really cool character, and it kind of adds to this, bigness to it, even though it's like maybe it's distorting and maybe it's too loud and it shouldn't, under certain rules or whatever, it shouldn't be that way. But a lot of my attitude is like I just don't care. I just want it to be ridiculous, and I'm just gonna crank it. But as far as making them, it can be a lot of different stuff. It depends. Like the impact for Destroy Something Beautiful is made out of a bunch of like fire sound effects and like fireball stuff, and a lot of like gravel sound effects and stuff where I take like, someone will throw a giant rock onto a bunch of other rocks and you get this like pretty cool sound, and then I will combine that with a bunch of other different layers, like, a bass drop, so it has a low end impact, and then maybe something higher. So you kind of have this like mid layer, this low layer, and this high layer, so that when it all hits at the same time, it's just this huge explosion of sound. Um, and that's kind of how a lot of it goes, is just trying to pick the right flavor and setting for the song. That,
That is as nerdy as your look.
yeah.
And it's really cool. Okay, so to be clear, when you describe something like gravel noises or a rock dropping,
Mhm.
you didn't specifically go yourself outside and keep
No, no,
rocks.
no. People, millions of people make sample packs of all this
Yes.
stuff that you can purchase, and it's royalty free once you buy it and whatnot.
Okay.
But it's a lot of combinations of things, and I do a lot of synth work too. So I will synthesize a sound and then add like the gravel thing to it to make it this big, huge explosion. There's all kinds of different little tricks that I have over the years, but they're all really, really nerdy and super detailed, and I
hmm
could sit here for hours. I don't want to get too nitty gritty.
Okay, cool. So we're almost at the end of the Call of Duty stuff, and I'm gonna come at you with a slightly more generic question. So far, do you
Sure.
have a favorite song from what you've done on Call of Duty?
Oh yeah, no one's there. I mean, how can it be anything else? It's kind of untouchable. I mean, it's not fair to me for me to say that because I'm so biased towards Vicky, and just knowing her and getting to work with her over the past few years, like, and just knowing what she is capable of, and like the first time she sent me the vocal pass for that song, I was blown away. I was just like, oh my God, I did not expect anything like this to come out of her for this song, and it was incredible. And I remember like as soon as I heard it, the first thing I did is I grabbed my fiance and I was like, you need to sit down, you need to hear this because this is crazy. And it's like just the most insane sounding thing I've ever heard. And now I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, how I'm supposed to top this. But you know I think like if it's not that one, I think Turn to Ashes is really up there for me. I think especially guitar wise, like I think those are the songs that are a little more interesting to me, the ones that are like kind of got catchier riffs and stuff. Like I think Slave is really, really cool and really fun, but I think if you like listen to Slave and then you listen to No One's There, you can tell that there's been a long kind of development of the risks we're willing to take and kind of the explorative side of it, where like we're willing to do so much more now than we were with Slave. Whereas like Slave is still a crazy song and it's amazing, but it feels more controlled compared to No One's There. Whereas like No One's There is just like so insane and there's so much happening and there's so many tracks. But
So
yeah,
many tracks.
yeah, that's definitely my favorite for sure. That's my number one.
Is there such a thing as too many tracks?
Nope,
No, no, there isn't.
nope,
So,
never.
so then is it possible that you add so many tracks that there's too many of them for the human ear to perceive, or does that just mean that you have to listen to the song so many times that you will have eventually picked up everything?
A bit of both. I think
Okay.
it's dependent on when you mix it. Kind of the fun part of mixing is you get to decide what's important, right? So you have all these tracks and you get to go, okay, well, do I want the vocals really loud or do I want the synth part really loud or do I want this guitar part to be really loud? And that's kind of the thing is you get to direct the listener where they're going to focus and you get to control what's going to be, important in the mix. So for instance, no one there has like I don't know, 400 tracks or something like that. It's pretty big. And then like the last chorus in that song has so many layers. Kind of back to the impact thing is I took every single impact that's in that song and they all hit at the start of that last chorus. I just threw them all in the same spot and it's like way too loud and crazy and clips and distorts. But there's also like horns, and then there's also like an arpeggiated string section and an arpeggiated piano and a bunch of different synths and maybe like four different synth pads and then another string pad. And it's like there's all that stuff in there, but it's not the focus. The focus is Vicky, especially because of what she's doing and how high she's hitting these notes and her performance. So again, it's kind of just what you want the listener to be listening to. So I don't think there's ever a thing as too much tracks, but it's how you deal with it that's important.
I like that you said that because what's frequently been happening to new Call of Duty music is that it's increasingly hard for me to be analytical about it because and that's actually how you know you do a good job because when I'm so focused on the impact of the song instead of the
Sure.
contents of it, that means the contents are doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, and that song on her behalf is such an insane performance because it's rare that I think I find vocalists who can do something that's an insane vocal workout, but then is
Yes.
also expressive. It's not a vocal workout for the sake of
Yeah.
being a vocal workout, and that's definitely not one
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah.
yeah. All right. I think we're almost done with the Call of Duty stuff, but I also wanted to ask you about this feature that you did for Nail the Mix, which is a mixing competition. And you did
Yeah.
that back with the first track that Vicky was on, which is called Slave.
Yeah.
Can you detail a bit on how that competition runs? And also, for my specific curiosity, how do you rate the quality of a mix in a competition? Like, what's the subjective or objective standard there?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of hard, right? Because music is so subjective that it can be kind of hard to boil it down to that. But at the same time, I think for judging stuff, I think you have to look at a track record of like what sounds good. And I think, it you can like really boil it down even if you're not a music person at all. When you listen to a song, it either sounds good or it doesn't sound good. And that's kind of where you start, you know? But I think for like Slave, the thing I'm looking for, especially with like Nail the Mix, is like one, I want it to be close to what I did. Because Nail the Mix, they run every month and they have a different guest, producer, mixer come in, and you basically get a month-long period as a student to work on the song and submit it to the competition. And so, in that sense, the song that they're referencing is the final product. So if they do a song with like, Bill Murray, or if they do a song for Bring Me the Horizon or something, the students are referencing the album version of that song. So I think getting close to that and then maybe finding a way to branch off and have your own style is also a huge thing. So that's kind of where it lies for me is, how close does it sound to the original, plus how much is it like the person's own thing. But it's kind of subjective, people are gonna like different stuff. I do know that for Nail the Mix, they have kind of a collective voting system where the students vote on their favorite. It's like, it's up to the kids who are also making their submissions and their mixes. They also get to vote on who wins. So it's
Nice.
it's pretty hands off from the judge's side of it and that kind of thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, Nail the Mix was just so fun, and it's so crazy that we got it to happen because, I mean, it's it's Call of Duty and it's Activision, and I remember there was Kevin was telling me that it was the longest email chain he's ever been in, and it went on for a really long time, and there was a lot of lawyers and a lot of parts and a lot of moving things that had to happen because just to be able to use the name Call of Duty is like a 500-page document that has to be signed by someone somewhere, It is not it's not an easy, stone to move, but somehow we made it happen and it was really fun. It's just so cool to be able to do that. And yeah, so like I said, the students go through a month, they get to mix a song, and at the end of the month, the mixer does it live, and there's a chat where you can chat with the mixer and answer questions, and it's very interactive and it's a very live thing. And something that was fun for me too is like they have a Discord channel, and the they let me like be in the Discord while people were submitting because you can kind of they have a thing called Rocktagon where you can like put in your mix as you're working on it to get feedback from other people, including other students and other mixers and producers and stuff. And so it was fun for me to be able to go in there and give feedback to a bunch of people about, things that I thought were really good and things that I thought could be worked on and stuff like that. So I really love that kind of stuff, and I love teaching and I love helping, and I just love being able to share any kind of knowledge I have with anyone.
Hmm. Okay, hang on. I got lost a bit in the questions. Let me actually, because you said some things that piqued my interest and try to pick up on those. So
Yeah,
you pointed out that there's like two aspects to the criteria for rating the
sure.
submissions, which is that there's on the one hand coming close to the original, and on the other hand having some creative input. So that sounds like a mix of creativity but sticking close to the original, which feels a bit counterintuitive. But I guess I don't know. I would say that's a matter of um, like understanding the purpose of the song. So that's the part where you come close to the original, and then being able to
Yes.
get creative without losing that.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I don't think it's like necessarily that you have to take it in a separate direction for it to be good.
Hmm.
I just think for me it's like bonus points if it becomes your own style. If I can hear someone's mixing style through their song, then that's really, really huge. Like I
Okay.
think Tyler is such a great example of that. Because when you listen to like I Prevail, you listen to like Falling in Reverse, you're gonna hear Tyler throughout those songs. You're gonna hear his style, his sound, his, attention to detail. And same with like, there's a guy named Zach Cervini who is doing almost every huge band right now. He's done everybody from Poppy to Evanescence to Bring Me the Horizon to Architects. But if you listen to those bands back to back, you'll hear his sound throughout all of that music. And I think that's kind of the thing that I'm looking for is like that uniquely identifying aspect to the mix of the song.
Hmm.
And that's something that's important. It's important to have your own identity through mixing, which is it's not easy to do. It's definitely something I'm still working on too. But I'm starting to think that I'm figuring it out a little bit.
All right. Really cool. Okay. I was also curious when it comes to working as a producer with artists, what are the differences and pros and cons to working in a manner where you just send files back and forth versus working with the musicians in the room? What do you think are the pros and cons to those experiences?
Well, for one, I generally prefer the like sending files back and forth for a few reasons. First being, I just like being home. I'm just kind of an introverted person, so I just like being, home with my fiance and stuff, and just being able to work on things in my own time and my own headspace can be really beneficial for me. But the room thing is also really cool too. I think something that is beneficial to having people in the room is kind of the instant vibe check. If you guys are starting to write something, you can look around the room and be like, nobody likes this. Like you can kind of tell right away if people are into it or not. So that's kind of a nice deterrent. But I also feel like at the same time, for me personally, when I'm writing something, it always starts as one thing and then it kind of goes into something else. And eventually it evolves and mutates very far away from the original,
Mhm.
like, first thought. So generally, it's like I don't want people to hear the first thought because I know they want the thing it's going to turn into, but it's not there yet. So I don't want them to be discouraged or, I don't want them to be like demoralized or have a predetermined bias before we get to the result.
Okay.
So that's kind of the benefit of doing things where people don't hear it yet. And I also love reactions. So for me, I love being able to like, I finish the whole thing and then I just sit you down and make you listen to it. And I'm like, I get your full reaction after everything is already done. Is such a great feeling.
I know
Um,
what that's like because I always like finishing a video and then and seeing my brother's reaction to a reaction. So,
yeah, yeah, right.
yeah. Okay. I have okay, I think we're almost done. I always leave for the end of the interview the questions that unless I get answers to, I can't sleep at night. And for you, I actually
Okay.
have two.
Okay.
The first one is there was a comment on our channel a while back that said, I don't remember who posted it, and I probably won't find it. This isn't to put anybody on blast, but it was just a really spicy idea. So somebody went there and said that Kevin Sherwood is a phony and that he's got other people making all his music for him. So you're one of the other people who are hypothetically making all
I
his
see.
music for him.
I
So I
see.
wanted to stress test that. What do you think of that thought? Is Kevin Sherwood a phony or not?
I think people just because the like behind the scenes is so secretive and it's so you just see a bunch of names who work on something. I think people don't realize how collaborative the process is. Like you don't see it every day. You only see the results. So of course you're gonna think that he doesn't do anything. But that just isn't the case. He's the captain of the ship. It's his music. He gets to decide if something goes out or something doesn't go out, if something doesn't go his way. It is his music first and foremost. And everything we do between the two of us is always either 50-50 or it's like 60-40 on his side. Like I'm never doing more than him or less than him. It's a very collaborative process. Like I'm writing the stuff with him. It's not, who did this and who did that and that makes him phony or whatever. It's such a collaborative process and that's how it is for everyone involved too. Like I program bass, but then Jacob goes and he plays stuff that I never would have programmed and never would have thought of. Same with Nathan. Nathan goes and he records all the drums and he's doing stuff that I never would have thought of and never would have come up with. And same with Kevin. Kevin writes all these amazing pieces of music and he just has such great ideas and it's just my job to put all of those pieces together and make it sound like it's in, one house of musicians.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's kind of the thing where it's really easy to say that, someone doesn't write their own music and all that stuff when there's a team of people working on it, but that's just not the case. You have to understand that it's always Kevin's music and it's Kevin first and he's the captain and if he doesn't like something, it doesn't go. Like that is how it is with every artist that I ever work with. It's never I'm making music for them that I'm putting out. You know what I mean? Like just wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't, the stuff that I do with Call of Duty is really fun, but it's not stuff I would put out personally, just simply because it isn't true to the way that I would want things, or you know what I mean? It isn't true to the way that I would write music for myself. It would be a completely different perspective and a completely different side of that. Um, but yeah, I understand the way it looks just because, you're only seeing the end of things, the results of things. But yeah, truly it is a fully collaborative 50-50 all the way. Like it's a very, very balanced workflow.
All right. That's really cool to hear. And I think Kevin is a very mature creative because having a vision and then knowing what to delegate to whom to maximally improve that vision is maturity as a creative.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And
And
also, if you feel that way, you could also go listen to his discography for the last 15 years that he's done by himself. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many songs that he has just worked on solo. Like, I'm pretty sure 115, he did everything. Like, he didn't have anyone else working on the music. It was just him. Um,
I mean there's also Ellen. I feel like she's worth mentioning. She's
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
in there.
too, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But that's what I mean. It's like, it's not, if you're looking for that and you want that true like single person does everything. He's done it for a really, really long time. This is the first time that he's let other people come in and help him but I mean look at the results. Listen to these songs. They're crazy compared to what he's been doing and has been doing. I mean, I think the Black Ops 6 and Black Ops 7 Easter egg songs have been crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously I worked on it, so I'm a little biased, but it's been it's
Okay.
it's just been really fun and crazy.
So to come back to our favorites in Sixth Sense, uh,
Sure.
I'm subscribed to their Patreon and they've been teasing some of the new music. And there's this
Yes.
video that they shared of the vocal recordings
Yes.
that I thought was really, really entertaining. And based on that video, I wanted to ask you,
Okay.
on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you enjoy using the phrase "do it again"?
That's funny. I haven't seen any of this stuff, so that's actually really funny. I'm gonna have to bug Vicky about that. I enjoy it 135%. Um, I think it's one of those things where um, it sounds like I'm being annoying and I'm forcing someone to do something again, even if the take is perfect, which is the truth. But the reason being is because when you're editing a lot of the stuff, you might find something special in the take after the perfect take, if that makes sense. So it's kind of you can always record too much and then boil it down to less. But if you record too little, you can't just create something out of nothing. So to me, it's important to always get too much and to push and get them to do way too much and too many takes and do it again as many times as I think it may need. But generally, it's mainly just because I'm looking for different inflections and different ways that they're saying the words or different ways that they're coming in or maybe even where they're placing their breaths and stuff. A lot of that stuff is really, really important and being able to hear that stuff and understand what's going to be the right take is pretty important. But yeah, that process is really, really fun, and I love getting to work with Vicky and Rob. They're just the best.
Yeah, so it really sounds like you're giving yourself options for later, for when you have to get the
Yeah,
final edit
yeah,
out.
yeah. But on surface, it looks like I'm just being a jerk and making them sing this crazy thing over and over. Um,
It's useful to be a useful jerk.
exactly, exactly. Time and place.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for joining me. It was
Yeah,
delightful. It was very insightful and equally entertaining. And
yeah,
I'm glad that we're Six Sense Bros. And
yep.
yeah, to everyone watching, check out the new Call of Duty stuff and the not so new Call of Duty stuff that was out last year. Check out Popular Monster and the stuff that Joey's worked on there. And definitely, most importantly, check out Six Sense and the new music coming out. New single, Newsflash, will already be out by the time this is out for sure. And thank you very much.